I've been playing Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth recently, and since I have an absolutely massive video coming out soon, a very long one, I wanted to do a shorter video on my first impressions of this game before that comes out. I'm about at the fourth chapter right now, the part where you get to District 5, so this will contain spoilers up until then. I have played like 7 hours of this game, but that's nothing. Not in this game. That said, this is an absolutely fantastic game, and I'm so glad it's doing so well now. Let's get into this. Infinite Wealth feels very similar to Yakuza Like a Dragon. Of course, it's set in Hawaii now, but it definitely feels like an extension of the game. That's great, because Yakuza Like a Dragon has such a deep character to it. It's an explosion of personality and clever writing. Its story revitalized a 15-year-old franchise and introduced characters who have become some of my favorite in the series. It does stuff I never would have even thought imaginable in the franchise, like the Tojo clan being dissolved. Isizaki Ijincho is also my favorite city in the whole series. It's very developed and has such a character to it. This game has a lot to live up to, and it feels like a good follow-up so far, even having quite a few improvements over Yakuza Like a Dragon. The gameplay just takes a few steps forward, but in practice, it's a huge improvement due to the simple fact that you can walk around. This allows you to position enemies to be knocked into each other, and you can even grab items to hit enemies, like all the Yakuza games. I really like this, because it means you need to be just that bit more clever, and the area you actually fight in factors into the gameplay. These two things are technically in Yakuza Like a Dragon, but since you couldn't move around, they felt random, not like an actual mechanic. This was a very obvious change, and I'm glad it's here. It's gonna be weird if I ever decide to play Yakuza Dragon without this quality of life improvement. Besides that, it's basically the same, only with new party members, of course. At the point I'm at, the only party members I've played as were Ichibal's Adachi Nanba, and newcomers Tomizawa and Kiryu. I really enjoy Tomizawa as a character, by the way, and as a party member, and I'm super excited to see how Chitose will be in this game. As a party member, and the other Chitose, not Buster Holmes. The only issue with him is that his name is Eric and it's spelled with a C. Never trust Eric with the C's. Of course, more nuances with this combat system will come later on, and I can't really speak on it definitively as of yet. I will say, though, I didn't really get Kiryu's stance-changing gimmick. He has the B stance, which can break guards. I get it, that's useful, but the Rush style and Brawl style, I think I got the names right, don't really seem to be that big of a difference from each other, and it just seems like it's there as a token effort to make him seem like how he always fights in the beat-em-up games. It only really affects one attack, though. I could be proven wrong in the future, though. It just doesn't seem that necessary for now, you know? It reminds me of when people make movesets for him in Smash, and they have a gimmick where his entire moveset changes with stances. That's not necessary. I'll talk more about Kiryu's role in the story later on. So this game's introduction, like the first hour of gameplay, is weird. Good weird. It's Yakuza, of course good weird. It's a long section where we get to see Ichiban living. He's got a steady stream of income, and so do his friends. And hey, look at this, he's got a date. This is the best cutscene in the entire damn series.
Yeah! I did it! She said yes!
Look, our boy's made it. We get to see him go on a date with Sayako and just follow the lives of these characters that I love, just being happy for a little bit. Oh hey, it's this scene. This is the scene from the trailer where Ichiban proposes to Sayako, and then it turns out it's a dream, and that was just for the trailer. Fuck, they're doing this. This is not a dream. And now a year has passed, and Ichiban gets doxxed by a VTuber, and everyone's lost their job. This is a roller coaster of introduction for sure, but it's still surprisingly mature in a way, and it carries on the theme of Yakuza Like a Dragon. At least one of the themes, anyways. There is no made it in a world where at any moment unforeseen circumstances can cause you to lose everything you've worked for years. Everything can change in just a moment. But our protagonists are resilient and keep living, even though someone will tell them their life is over when they're 40 or 60. Like, when has an RPG ever had a 63-year-old as protagonist? Anyways, it's really powerful, and it reinforces ideas I like about the game. A theme I'm starting to notice is people deciding or not deciding their life is over. Not suicide necessarily, but just deciding they've lived enough or it's too late and need to live on autopilot mode. A good example is the Yakuza from the start of the game, whose name I forget. He has basically decided he wants to go back to his normal life, never deciding anything for himself or doing anything for himself. So once the Tojo was disbanded, he just wants to go back to how it's always been. But Ichiban cares for him and it gives him the confidence to find his own path. It's a theme that comes up a lot, really. And of course, another example would be when you decide it's time to stop fighting for your life. Like cancer. It's time to talk about Kiryu now. I was skeptical about Kiryu being in the story at first, but then Like a Dragon Gaiden ended up being a super emotional game, especially the ending. And the fact that he has cancer now makes me excited, because it's clear they have something planned for him. Possibly something definitive. I doubt Kiryu will die. I seriously doubt that. That's like saying Kratos will die. But you can't just give a character cancer without doing something huge with it. And there's not a chance I won't cry at this game. I'm excited, man. I haven't seen much from Kiryu, but I have confidence they will handle him well. Although I do kinda have a hard time getting used to him though. I don't know why. It's probably because of that stupid haircut, or maybe Yonghee's voice. Kiryu has always had a very distinct voice in Japanese, and I wish it just sounded a little closer to how it was in Japanese, like it was played a little older. But I do definitely think he's a very talented voice actor. Some of the responses to Yang Ye's Kiryu, though, have showed the absolute height of toxicity and immaturity from the Yakuza fandom. And it really sucks that the lead up to this game on the internet has been pretty miserable. People hate him so much just because of, like, Twitter drama. But anyways, it doesn't feel like Kiryu to me, and it's hard to think of him as the same Kiryu I followed for so long, even if he still acts character. Even if he still acts in character. I have a feeling this might change, though. Speaking of voice acting, yes, I play dubbed, and I think it's a pretty fine dub. Tomizawa especially sounds fantastic. You can sense the anxiety in his voice, but also like the chillness to him. I also like the performance of Yamai too, who has a great design. He looks like a Asian version of the critic from Ratatouille, and also Snape. I can't wait until Danny Trejo shows up. It's just gonna be weird to see him interact with Kiryu. Some of the English versions of karaoke songs are a little rough though. Not all, some are very good. Bakimi Tai is good, which is important. But I'll just say, what the hell happened with Judgment Shinpon? It's so disappointing. Hell Stew is another one I think took a downgrade in English, and this has been done in Yakuza Like a Dragon. This isn't new. Also, okay, I'm okay with saying shit posters and trolls in a game, but maybe not in a cool metal song about demons eating people, okay? Thank you. Another big change in Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth is the fact that it's set in Hawaii now, and a move to America has given the series more than just dollar signs and stupidly big SUVs. Honolulu is huge in this game, and there's a lot of culture put into it, which makes it ooze with charm and creativity. Culture has always been a huge part of the Yakuza series for me, and it's really cool to see them put in so much effort into a different location like this. There's a lot of attention put into the setting as usual, even down to stuff like calling the Sega Genesis instead of the Mega Drive. It's a great first entry into another country for the Yakuza games. Well, technically Kuroyo 2 has been in America, but believe me, you can still set an unabashedly Japanese game in Hawaii. It is kind of weird to see Yakuza characters in American suburbs and using dollars, though. I haven't quite gotten used to that. I do prefer Isazaki Ijincho as a location, though. That's probably because I think it's prettier and it has better world building, but that's just me. Yokohama is probably my favorite city in Japan. I haven't actually been there, but it's just always been really interesting to me in anime and stuff. You know those stupid cartoons of Wojak saying they like a place in Japan more than a place outside Japan? I'm like that, but just with Yokohama. Hawaii is a really interesting place to me too, but I'd probably never actually want to go there because I don't really like going to the beach. So it is cool to be able to explore this in a video game setting without having to go to the beach. I think the next step for the series would be China or Korea as locations, but there are still some major Japanese cities like Saitama or Chiba or Nagasaki they could go to. I'm just excited to see where this franchise will take us next. So I haven't really dabbled in minigames or sub-stories too much, but they are about the same amount as what Yakuza Like a Dragon and past entries had. They're the classic Yakuza stuff. I don't know, I barely played any. There's not much new stuff yet. Which isn't a bad thing necessarily though, because these games already have a ton.
Hi, this is me like a couple hours later, and my audio quality sounds exactly the same as it always has. Anyways, I just wanted to acknowledge that one shitty DLC. Like, I didn't even mention in this video, but RGG Studio made New Game Plus Locked Behind DLC. And man, it's just so exhausting. Like, being an ongoing fan of the Yakuza series and Sega in general, and they keep doing shitty stuff like this. It's just, I don't think we should like continue to let them get away with this and not make a big stink about it, because it's unquestionably terrible. Okay, I'm kind of rambling here. Point is, Sega bad sometimes, grr.
What I did really enjoy was that little bond bingo that comes up in the conversations between characters. It makes those conversations actually feel like a game mechanic. It's silly and I like it. Those little radio segments are cool too, although one is in Japanese and doesn't have subtitles, and one is in English and presumably doesn't have Japanese subtitles. If you're a fan though and you haven't listened to them, I recommend doing so, because they have a bunch of Yakuza references and it's pretty cool. They're deep cuts too. People will be saying how they couldn't find the NY hot dog entrance in Kamurocho. And yes, NY hot dog really doesn't have an entrance. The Segwaves radio show even has a reference to a sub-story in Judgment where two fast food restaurants collaborate. It's not even that memorable, but the fact that they do reference it is just cool. It is pretty damn annoying when you can't use a scroll bar to find your place in the podcast though, or it does restart when you unselect it. So that's annoying, but it is a neat little addition. The Club Sega games this time around are Spike Out, Sega Bass Fishing, and Virtua Fighter 3. I'm glad to see them get a re-release, don't get me wrong, they're all classics, and Spike Out's influence on the Yakuza series is something I don't see people talk about too often. It wasn't just Shenmue that influenced it. Still though, it leaves a sour taste in my mouth when these games aren't re-released in other forms, and a $90 game is the only way to play them. It's not really RGG Studios' fault though, I suppose. And I'll still get excited when a new game is put on there, the same way I get excited when a game is added to Nintendo Online, even though I hate that service. It's just a thing people should keep in mind, I suppose. Once you get to Hawaii, I felt it reaches the point where this game's story becomes more of a traditional Yakuza story, and it's slightly weaker than the absolutely wild introduction. But that's mostly because we've settled in, and the plot for now is mostly about Ichi's party taking on the Mafia and the Yakuza, rather than that super emotional start, firmly in the middle point. I can't complain about the build-up section though, and there absolutely are some emotional highs. Some moments that stood out to me were the sort of ongoing redemption arc Joe Sawashiro got, the confidence through which Ichiban speaks to Tomizawa at a moment of crisis, of course Ichiban looking for his mother, and the conversation where we find out Kiryu has cancer. That part which is perfectly paced, and this kind of writing is what I love about this new phase of the series. One thing I'm looking forward to is how the game will incorporate Adachi, Nanba, and other party members in Hawaii, because they clearly go there. I've seen the trailers, and I have no idea why. So I'm genuinely excited for that, especially with Sayako. The fact that she hasn't spoken to the boys in a year is a little strange, and the fact that they specifically point out she hasn't seen Ichiban's text is... I think something's going on there. There's no way this game's actually gonna forget about her. Oh, so when Ichiban sees her, he's gonna say something so cringy, oh god. So, I suppose my overall point here is that Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth has a very strong opening and then goes more towards the same Yakuza experience. I love the same Yakuza experience, but I do hope they carry on the massive heights of that introduction. Considering what I know will be in the game later though, I believe they will do so. I'm happy RGG Studios' heavy marketing push made this such a successful title, and I do feel optimistic for what this game will bring us later on. I probably won't talk about it, but I'll have a big Games I Played in 2024 video at the end of the year, so look out for that, I suppose. Hey, it might even be my favorite game. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later. I'll make a community post or something to say how many times I cried. Also, one other element of this game that I don't see people talk about very much, which also applies to Yakuza Like a Dragon, is that Ichiban, he kind of goes to the same arc as the hero from Dragon Quest V. Seriously, he spends years of his life imprisoned, which happens to that hero. He has his father figure die, and now he's on a search for his mother, and he wants to get married. That's exactly what happens in Dragon Quest V. So it's just something super neat, and I think it was intentional, personally. It might not be, but it would be super cool to see his arc mirror that of the Dragon Quest V protagonist. Did this game even have Dragon Quest references in it, by the way? I haven't found any. I think they might have just not had the license to it. I don't know.